Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to Roleplay 101, where my co-host and I like to go over our weekly do's, don'ts, and what the heck is this about. I'm going to be pretty short today because I'm still clawing my way back to 100% health, but getting tired of sitting around doing nothing, so here we go. Okay, I don't know how many times we can stress this. Ask questions, people. Ask questions. It's a constant problem everywhere. If you don't know the game, ask questions. If you don't know the setting, ask questions. If you don't understand the rules, ask questions. If you don't understand the type of actions your character can take, ask questions. If you're stuck, ask questions. There's just so many reasons for you to ask questions as a player. There's no reason for you not to. So just do it. It makes everyone's lives that much easier. It'll save you from getting killed. It'll save you from being frustrated. It'll save you from thinking a game's not for you, because there's plenty of games that I don't like, but as soon as somebody explains it to me and helps me like break down the system, then it's suddenly like, oh, okay, so this isn't as annoying as I thought it was. You know, it's just like learning a new video game and the mechanics. You just got to adapt, and that's really all there is. So just ask questions. Ask questions. It's that much easy. It's so easy, and people act like it's really not. I don't know. Anyway, I feel like we touch on this every time. Okay, here's something we encounter a lot too. Human fighters are not superior in every game, especially not in a freeform fantasy setting. Freeform removes the dice factor. Your actions are no longer dependent on the roll of a die. You have to actually think. You have to tell us what you want to do, and hopefully not die in the process. If you make a foolish mistake, you're likely going to get injured or worse. That's just how it is. I realize that human fighters get a lot of bonuses in 5e, and it makes them a really easy class to play. It makes them a really good starter class for anybody that's not familiar with the system or familiar with role-playing. It's a very forgiving class. You get good saves, good bonuses. So yeah, for D&D it's great. For D&D 5e, the fighter class is amazing. But for a free-form fantasy setting that has no actual classes, no actual dice, no actual skill lists or spell lists, it's up to you to define what your character can do. And then if you forget something, then, that's just how it is. You're going to have to talk to your GM and figure out how you're going to work that into your story, because once your character's established, you can't just magically learn things or, get objects that you forgot to tell us you had. Too much opportunity for power playing there, and sneaking in, stuff that is normally wouldn't be allowed. So that's the problem with freeform, because people do try to do that, try to add abilities and all this stuff. Oh, well, I was supposed to have this. Well, we started play already, so unfortunately you don't. And that's any game. That's really any game. Hey, Venom. There you are. So yeah. Only in 5e is the human fighter superior, so don't expect to get those same bonuses in a freeform game, because you just won't. You won't, and again, the dice not being a factor means you have to come up with everything that you're doing. You can't just choose an action from a list. You have to, hey, Nori. Alright. And you just can't choose actions from a list. You have to literally come up with that action yourself. So that winds up killing a lot of fighters in a lot of our freeform games, because they think... I honestly don't know what they think. They think they can charge into a situation by themselves and not get killed, when I don't know in what game that works in, because you can even go play things like Elden Ring and Monster Hunter. You try to go just run up on the monster and it's just going to murder you. So... again, you can have that fighter mentality, but if you take it into a freeform game, it's just not going to serve you very well. Just without dice to help you out, it's going to be rough. Let's see, here's another thing. Signs you're working with a not-so-great GM. Because we've met many. We encounter even more over time, when we ourselves try to go join other games and try to ask questions, and figure out what a game's about. And it's just, these signs just immediately make me leave a game. Like, one is they refuse to answer your questions or belittle you for even asking. I'm out. Done. Sorry. You're the GM. You're supposed to be able to answer my questions. You're supposed to be the one who's here to help me. You're going to act like I'm a burden to you. I'm out of here. That's it. they remove or alter mechanics when they feel it suits them. I've seen that a lot. I've seen that, and that begins when you're a kid. Because, as a kid, you want to win everything, so you keep changing the rules. That's very, very childlike behavior that carries on into adulthood, unfortunately, with some of these GMs. So, I really, just get out of that game, There's absolutely no reason to stay there. That makes me like, oh, okay, so the rules change when you need them to change, but otherwise, they screw us over every 2 seconds. Yeah, I'm not into that. Another one, they're constantly apologizing for not being active in your game, yet never seem to get any better about it. Yeah, if the GM doesn't have time for the game, I don't have time for the game. That's just how it is. If you're not acting like your game's a priority and you post on your server once a week, yeah, I'm not about that. I'm an active GM. I run live games. People need to get in touch with me sometimes to ask me questions about their character, whether it's on a session day or not on a session day. They always have questions, and I need to be able to answer all that stuff in a timely fashion. Otherwise, we're never going to have our session, because then we'll spend all of session day trying to figure that stuff out, and we'll have maybe an hour or two to roleplay, so it's just, if you don't have time for a game, don't start one. That's just my suggestion. Just like if you don't have time for a game, don't join one. It's being a non-present player is almost as bad as being a non-present GM. It makes it hard to do. Another thing, this kind of goes with the second one. If your ideas as a player always fail, and their ideas always succeed, it's probably a not so great GM. That's if they're just always thinking up really silly or ridiculous reasons for your plans not to succeed. Well, of course, like any movie, yeah, GM's active once a month. Yeah, Phantom. I know. That's a little weird to me. I don't understand how that game does anything or goes anywhere. Very strange. I don't know. Maybe some people think role playing is posting once a month. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, if any of those things are signs that your GM gives off, maybe you should get out of their game, because that probably means they're not so great a GM. Now, if they're new, it's fine to forgive someone who's new. Anybody who's new is going to make mistakes. That's always how it is. So. Just be sure that you're critiquing your new GM and telling them, hey, you probably shouldn't do this, or you probably should do that. And it's good with the group, because then you can get varying opinions of what they're doing right or wrong. Plot armor? Yeah, exactly. Plot armor. That's if the GM's characters all have plot armor, all the NPCs, and your characters are just constantly getting screwed over every 2 seconds, probably a bad sign. Probably a bad sign. Yeah, it's crazy that we keep seeing these things, and so we keep talking about them, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess we're just going to touch on this again, things to look out for. And then the last thing that I had written down for today was don't rely on overly complicated traps for your dungeons and quest arcs, because one, some of your players are going to get sick of them really quickly, and two, anything that's too complicated has a lot of opportunities to fail. As we know in machinery and electronics, the more pathways there are, the more checkpoints you have to do, the more moving parts are in the machine, the more opportunities you have for it to fail. So don't be surprised if your very overcomplicated trap gets thwarted by one of your players who figures it out. And so if that makes you angry, your players solving the traps, getting around your traps, you probably shouldn't be GMing. If the players doing things just makes you angry in any way, shape, or form, like the way that they play the game, especially if they're playing their characters well and they are thwarting your puzzles and coming up with ways around your enemies. I have this happen a lot because I have a handful of players who are very, very smart, and whenever I have those players in a game together, they generally always compliment everything that everyone else is doing, and my enemies wind up, with a -2 and everything, slowed, blind, something, and I'm just sitting here going, all right, well, you guys work really well as a team, so I guess I need to make my monsters harder. And that's how it is, you have your players that work well together, and you have your players that don't work so well together, and sometimes they're going to outsmart your stuff, so to get angry about that is just not the way to go. To get angry about anything as a GM is just not the way to go. If a player is making you angry and they're actually doing something that's making the game uncomfortable for everyone else at the table, that's when you remove them. But if they're making you angry because they're outsmarting all of your traps and puzzles, you need to take a step back, because that's them doing a good job, and they need to be rewarded for that, not punished. And I do feel like a lot of GMs these days punish people for intelligent behavior. And especially if there's any sort of discrimination going on in the group, if there's, one girl in the group and a bunch of guys, or, one gay guy in the group and, a bunch of straight guys or a bunch of straight people, it just doesn't matter. If you have somebody who is a minority in the group, there's a good chance that you might wind up, if you're that minority, you might wind up getting picked on, or, just subtly harassed for, being the odd man out. You're the woman, you're the man, you're the African American, or you're the transgender, or whatever. Whatever it is that group doesn't like about you, they will single you out, and they'll make your life a living hell in game, which is part of the reason that so many people wind up getting turned off to role-playing, because they're like, oh, it's just a bunch of people acting like assholes. And it's like, in some cases, yes, it is. It is sometimes a bunch of douchebags around a table just acting like douchebags. And for you to try to join their game as a normal gamer, who's just there to have fun and not show off and be this total asshat, it makes you a target. It makes you a target, especially if you're intelligent and, again, you are able to thwart the puzzles and the challenges that the GM throws your way. There's a lot of chances of, you would think that people would admire that person at the table, like, oh, you're smart, you solved it, you made it so we didn't die, maybe we should defer to you from now on. No, they don't have that reaction. The reaction that they have is usually, oh, this person solved it, well, what makes them think they're so great? They must think they're the leader now, or something. Like, everyone gets butthurt about it. It's no longer like, oh, no, good job, good job for solving the challenge. No, it's like, oh, well, what makes them so awesome? It's such an atmosphere of pettiness that I just don't know what's going on with gamers right now. I don't know if it's because it's mainstream now, because now the D&D craze made gaming mainstream, and so now we have just this total influx of people who are, people are jealous, this influx of people who are just normal people, and they're no longer, experienced gamers or people who are geared towards gaming. It's just the average person. And to throw the average person into a hobby that's pretty complicated can be a little hard. And for those people to not have proper instruction means everyone's just running around doing their own thing. And if people are jealous and petty, then that's going to ruin games. And we see it. We see it ruin games. We hear about it all the time. That's part of the reason we don't really like 5e anymore. It's fine as a system. It's fine if you have a great group of people who don't argue. But if you have one person who wants to act entitled or wants to argue, it can sour the whole table. And I don't blame people for not wanting to be around that, And that is that is something we encounter. Nori, that people want to be the hero of the story. They want to be the main hero. And the problem with that is this is a group. This is a group effort. If you're in a one-on-one with someone and you're doing a one-on-one with a GM, now that is the perfect opportunity where your character is going to be the main character of the story, because there's really no getting around it. Your character is the only character in the story, so therefore they're the main character. But when you have a cast, when you have anywhere from 3 to 5 to 8 people in the group, all players, all with their own characters, this is no longer the story of one character. In fact, we don't even know who it's about yet, because in the very beginning, anybody could die. And whoever dies, guess what? You're not the main character. At best, we've covered this before, at best, your character in most role-playing games is a supporting character. You are applying as a supporting character. And as a supporting character, you have to work your way, just like any story, you have to work your way up to a main character position, to being important, to actually doing things. You have to not get killed, you have to make intelligent decisions, you have to make friends with the NPCs and connections so that you can actually move up in the world, make some actual progress, I had one character that went from being a runaway who was the target of assassination to going on this massive quest line to cure this plague that was afflicting his people and was the reason they were so scattered and why he was have an attempted assassination, because realistically speaking, he was the emperor of this nation. But without going on this huge quest arc where I was a supporting character, I was a supporting character in the story for the entire story until I got to the point where I rallied my people, I found the cure, I marched on the capital, and I took it back. Boom, became a main character in that instance, but because I achieved my goal, I considered my character retired. So at that point in time, I handed my character to the GM and said, he's yours now. He's an NPC. He's the emperor of this nation. I no longer really have a reason to play this character. I'll only get to play him every once in a while, when he has audiences. Which is funny, because whenever we go back and play that campaign, and people go to meet this emperor, he always throws the character sheet at me, and I sit there for a second, I go, oh, it's my character, I'm the emperor. Hello, greetings, welcome to my country. So, the supporting characters, yeah, they can pull up the argument that they can be a supporting character of another character, but the problem with that is that original character, the original player of that character, has to agree. You can't force yourself on someone else's plotline, especially if your characters don't get along. There's been plenty of times when I've seen characters that were, I'm going to be your mentor, I'm going to be your new teacher, and the other person is like, no, you're not. No, you're not. My character wants nothing to do with your character. You can try. They're going to ignore you, And that's why I encourage people to just play their characters the way their characters are meant to be played. I don't consider a character acting like an asshole their player acting like an asshole. You know why? Because that's in game. So if your character decides to be a dick to someone else's character, that's totally you and your character's decision, and that's not something that should be taken as a personal offense out of game. That is literally a game situation. This character just doesn't care for the other character. That's, nobody has to like anybody, even in the real world. So these people who try to weasel their way into other people's storylines, yeah, it's annoying. It's annoying, and I see it a lot, and, so yeah, I don't think people are very cooperative to that anymore. I think with all of the people demanding, it's becoming one of those things that people just are tired of hearing it. Just leave me alone, me and my character. So we can go along our way. Don't impose yourself on my storyline. That's definitely not what I'm going for. And if a GM forces that to happen, especially if you tell your GM, I don't want to adventure with this dude. Like, my character's not interested in this guy's character at all. There's no reason for us to work together. If your GM still forces you to do that, I would leave the game. That's just me. I don't like being forced to do things. If it's a perfectly reasonable in-game situation, like we're all off doing our own thing, and then we all wind up getting captured by the same force, and then suddenly we find ourselves in a cage somewhere, and now we all have to figure out what's going on. That's a plot situation devised to put two characters that normally don't work well together to make them work well together. And normally, you'd get your group's permission for some crazy crap like that. I usually ask people, like, hey, if I get your character imprisoned, well, is that going to be a big deal? Or, if I move them over here, is that going to be a big deal? They usually don't mind. It's usually not a big deal. Not when I'm doing it, But when another player tries to do that sort of stuff, then it becomes autoing, It becomes, God modding, it becomes all this different stuff when they try to impose on you. Especially if they're not the GM. That would confuse me to no end to have someone, following my character around everywhere. Especially if they're looking for me to protect them. They're looking for me to make all the decisions and all the mistakes so that they can just reap all the rewards. Yeah, no, I'm not down for that. Not for other people, writing my intelligence through the game. No, I'm not here to carry you. I'm not here to power level you. I'm here to play, and have fun. As a GM, I'm in a beginner game, I'm here to help you. In an advanced game, I'm not all the time, not in the same way that I'm there to help the beginner. I help the beginner because the beginner knows nothing. The beginner knows nothing, so every question that they ask me, I answer, whereas the advanced player, there are certain questions that they ask me and I will no longer give the answers to, or give them any hints at all, because they're not a beginner, they don't need those. And I also, for the advanced player, don't always tell them to make dice rolls. Because that's something you as the player at that point in time, once you're an advanced player, you should know what your character's capable of, especially in a World of Darkness situation. Because if you walk into a situation and you don't know what's going on, it's pitch black, it's dark, you can't hear anything, you can't see anything. Now, to a group of new people, I'd say go ahead and roll Perception Alertness to see what you can hear and see, even though you can't really see much. But for the advanced players, I wouldn't tell them that. That would be something I would not say. I would let them ask, because an advanced player would, can I roll Perception Alertness? You'd also have other people that want to roll other things. They want to roll Perception Investigation. They want to roll Intelligence Investigation. They want to roll Specialty, because, this is a situation that they're built for, being in the dark and, somewhere they don't know. It just depends on your character. But, so yeah, for the advanced players, I don't always remind them, because that's their job. That's their job to remember. It's just like, in a werewolf game, you don't hold your Werewolf the Apocalypse, you don't hold the character's hand the entire time. Once you tell them how to step sideways, that's it. That's the only explanation you get. You explain to them how to do it, you explain to them the situations that they're supposed to do it, but once that is passed, there's no more clues. No more clues. Like I said, in a beginner game, I might be a little more forgiving and give them, a clue here and there, but for the most part, an advanced group of Werewolf the Apocalypse players, I do not remind them to step sideways, because that is their job. It's their job to know that they can go into the spirit realm at any point in time, and that if they suddenly can no longer track prey, then most likely they stepped into the Umbra, okay? Because you can't smell them in the real world anymore, they're just gone. That's literally the mechanism that we're using to explain why supernatural creatures and cryptids suddenly disappear. They step into the supernatural realm and are no longer accessible. So, that's something I don't remind advanced players. And it's something I will slowly not remind beginners over the course of the first session, because it's your job to know that. And this is why, again, taking notes is so important. Just take notes. Take notes about your character, take notes about what they can do, their abilities, people they've met, places they've gone, special roles that you want to remember, write it down. Write it down on your character sheet, because that's important. Like, when I want to be able to do this, I need to roll this, Like, you can make yourself a little quick cheat sheet, and it'll tell you all the stuff that you need to roll. And you can even put your little, your dice pool number next to it, so you know exactly how many dice you need to roll for it. You just need to update that every time you update your character sheet, Well, I spoke probably more than I intended today, but we covered a few things. I'm still trying to save my voice. I don't know why it's still bothering me, but it is a little bit. So, thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for taking part. I know I'm talking fast over here, but it's because I wanted to get all this stuff out as quickly as possible. We'll put together more stuff for next week, and we'll see what we encounter. It's going to be Thanksgiving, so no Thursday games, and that's kind of nice. So everyone have a good holiday, and eat tons of food, and get nice and fat, because it's the winter time. And that is how we do. Oh, I'd love to talk more, Nori, but I can't today. I just can't. My voice is starting to crack. So I'll try to have a session on Friday, at the very least. I know it's part of the holiday, but maybe people will be around. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for talking. Thanks for contributing. As always, RP101 will be back again for sure on Monday.